Welcome, 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 everybody. It has been a long time since we have had a live on a Sunday. Humans without souls, we know a few of those. Great channel, by the way. Love that channel. Said, I hope you're not trying to get rid of me. No, take nothing personal around here. You'll know if it's personal. And welcome. This is a big treat. Hello, where's Summer 800 TBI Find? Now, where Summer 800 TBI Find is a personal friend of mine. We talk all the time. And it's Genius, the name of her YouTube handle, because she said every chat I go into, no matter the topic, she'll get someone in there to say, where's Summer? And then, of course, 800 TBI Find. It's genius. It's genius. Hello, Serena Ray. I saw you're getting ready to go on vacation. I'm very jealous. Starlight, my friend, where have you been? We have got some of the OG Summers Army in here, I see. Like our friend Slim Hauser. Hello, Peas in a Pod. Certified Quality said, unbelievable. It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Uneffing believable. That today is 19 months. 19 months. Our first show about Little Summer Wells. I had just found out that morning I was doing a show about Madison Boudreaux, and someone had messaged me about, have you heard about this little girl in East Tennessee? I said, no. And when I looked at it, they had just updated to say that it was now an Amber Alert. Well, you know me, she probably wandered off. I compared it to the case of Vady, much like the case in Southwest Oklahoma right now with little Athena. I'm like, I'm sure she'll turn up. That is the not Brooks being naive. That's the Brooks being very, very hopeful, yet skeptical. So June 16th, 2021. Didn't have much information. And spoiler alert, before we get into the show, we still don't. We still don't. Here's our good friend Muscles and Mascara, who, by the way, just got out of the hospital a couple of days ago. We are very happy that she's well. Fun to Ski said, I don't like RL. In my opinion, sorry excuse for his son. Really didn't think that he wanted to find Summer. Nope. Doesn't seem to be on it. Doesn't seem to be on it. You also have a DA. You also have an investigator, and you all know how I just love the charming, the oh so charming Pruitt. If you'd like to help us out, Hawkins County's got applications. You can sign up. No, I don't want to do your job, asshole. I want you to do your job. You yourself say you've never come across anything like this before. You yourself say you've never dealt with anything like this before. We have our friend Trevor backstage who reached out to the TBI, got some answers from Leslie, who said their capacity in this case is it's basically there as needed. So anything, any assistance or resources that Hawkins County needs from them, they're there to help. But are they doing it? Are they doing it? We're 19 months in. We don't have a task force. Dawn is sticking by Candace's side. I can't figure it out. I would have a lot of questions for my spouse if I'm at work and my child disappears. If my child disappears, we look at cases, and it's probably not a good idea to compare cases, but sometimes we can get something out of it by, because every person's different and every case is different. There are a few similarities. Okay, if you look at the case of Gannon Staunch, Al was out of town. Al gets home. All hell had broken loose. Gannon's missing. Letitia's saying he ran away. He sticks by Letitia for a hot minute, and he starts putting it together. She has something to do with it. The case of Kyron Horman, which is still not solved. God, I don't see how. It's been 12 years. We don't want this to be 12 years. Kane Horman sticks right by Terry until all of these other things came out and he was done with her. So I do not know what the hell is going on here. Now, Don is reaching out to a lot of YouTubers. I messaged back and forth with him the other day, told him everybody wants Summer found. And this was just my advice. Okay. This was just my advice to him. YouTube did not help. YouTube did not work the first time around. My suggestion to Don was to stay on law enforcement. Now, mind you, everyone's a suspect, but that's okay. You can still call. I'd be calling Hawkins County every damn day. They would be sick of my voice. They would be sick of my face. I would be after WJHL, Rogersville Review. That's who I would be going after. Because if not, we have yet another dumpster fire and things going on that take away from what we know is the utmost of importance in this case, which is Summer Wells. Get the hell away from YouTube. Forget it. Forget it. Light a fire under Lawson. You can't get a hold of Lawson? Light a fire under Pruitt. Act like Pruitt's your best friend. Nothing would piss off Ronnie Lawson more than leaving him out. How do you think Lawson would feel if at their meetings, Pruitt's like, yeah, I've been talking to Don. Oh, really? He hasn't talked to me. No, he just wants to deal with me now. Call the TBI every day. Get it done. Get it done. That was just my advice. Probably not the most popular advice, but that was my advice. Call the FBI. Call the FBI. Call the FBI card units. Just say, hi, this is Dawn Wells. My daughter has been missing for 19 months, and I need help. I need help because we have one investigator in Hawkins County, and he's investigating everything from a fundraiser for my daughter to DUIs and everything else. I don't think he has enough time to work on the case of my daughter being missing. Call them all. Call them all. And when they don't answer, get on WJHL. Hey, here's my phone. I've been calling and calling and calling. They don't want to help me. What do I do? My daughter's missing. What do I do? What would you guys do? Selena said they might be scared to be called in for questioning again or interrogated. Maybe so. Maybe so. But you're going to get further with law enforcement than you are with YouTube. Slim said call the Secret Service. There you go. Selena, always someone higher, go higher, higher, higher. The governor in other states has gotten involved when a missing child's case is at a standstill. They'll say, look, looks bad, looks real bad around here that nothing's going on with this child. Looks real bad. But we know 100% because we've witnessed it. YouTube's not going to help him. What YouTube can do is exactly what we're doing here right now. Keep spreading the word. Summer Wells is still missing. I have seen comments where people who lost track of the case a long time ago said, are you kidding? She's still missing? Yeah, she's still missing. She's still missing. Let's see what our friend Trevor has to say. Then we're going to go through some comments. Don't forget the link is pinned. Hello, Trevor. Can you believe it's been 19 months?
I cannot. It's mind-blowing each day that passes.
So what's the word on the street? What trouble are you stirring up for Ronnie Lawson today? Or do you take Sundays off?
No days off, but I'm waiting to hear back from the DOJ. Called again to inquire on the same issues, and hopefully they'll be getting back to me soon. We've got a couple national media sources that once they're a little bit more of this Idaho case, they'll hopefully come down and look into it as well with us.
Well, and we can also suggest to them, you have more than one reporter. Today'd be a good day for a follow-up on Summer Wells. I wonder if Brian Enton even knows that she's still missing.
He's one of the ones we contacted, so he does.
Okay. Well, I know also you've gone back and forth with Don a little bit. Does he know that you've gotten a hold of the DOJ? Did you tell him all that?
Yeah, we spoke about Lawson, and he agreed about the corruption from that end.
I know I brought Brandon up to him, and
Yeah.
I said, that would be a good angle when you talk to WJHL, get a hold of them and say, everybody, they reelected Ronnie Lawson, but nobody knew that his son was in this type of trouble. Maybe it wasn't a fair election. I don't know. Real deal said, is Nancy Grace still involved in this case? She did like one show about Summer. She hasn't pulled her desk up in the snow Idaho style, if you know what I mean. So let's look at some comments and see where we are. Unfortunately, this show is much like the show I did June 16th of 2021. We're still in the exact same boat, Trevor. Does that piss you off?
Oh, it does.
Same boat. Nothing from law enforcement. Not that they have to answer to us, but sometimes when a case drags on and on and on, they will take something, a little something out of the file, and they will address the public and give them just a little bit of information to kind of get it going again.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this case. Okay, I'm going to let Trevor address this. Court K, thank you for the super sticker. Court K said, at what point can the TBI decide to take over because Hawkins County isn't making progress? Sorry, I tried to send this 5 minutes ago, but I cussed and it wouldn't let me. Court K's got a potty mouth. They cannot. They cannot. They will not. They're not allowed. Trevor can explain it better.
So the TBI is a state agency, so they're legislated by the Tennessee legislature, and they were written in as an assistive agency. So basically, they can only come in at the call of another department. Usually, a DA can call them in for any kind of case. They come in for all officer-involved shootings. They come in for missing children, high-up cases, but they cannot take over any cases, even if they wanted to. And I'm sure they might want to in this case, but they cannot.
Mama B said, why is the FBI so quiet? Because they're not involved. Once the card unit said no abduction, they haven't been involved since. Hawkins County is not utilizing the resources of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation or the FBI, and neither of those agencies can do anything. They can't make them answer to them. All right. Bob G said, if Don and Candace really didn't have anything to do with Summer's disappearance, they need to be going to every mainstream media outlet and really start getting on the TBI and Hawkins County Sheriff's Department and demand more is done. I couldn't agree with this more because, like I said, YouTube isn't going to help you. And YouTube also does not intimidate law enforcement. They have a saying when it comes to YouTube. consider the source. They're not intimidated. They know people are fired up. They know people are calling them fools. What does get them going is when the mainstream media is shedding light on their job. What do you think, Trev?
I agree. I mean, doing it on YouTube is like making it on, on a Facebook post or a Twitter thread. I mean, it's out there, but that's not pressing them to do anything. When media companies that they rely on to spread their information and that are well trusted in communities or across the country start speaking on it, that gets them going.
Mm-hmm. Gaelic Girl said, how? She said, how? I get my glasses. Hang on. She said, how are they still roaming free? No answers, no worries. Summer is being failed again and deserves better. Now, here's the thing. I know there's a lot of talk right now about some money that's trying to be raised in order for Dawn and Candace to get their boys back. People, I don't care what anyone does with their money. That's their business. I don't care. I don't care. Just be aware that unless something has happened in the last hour, last we heard, everyone is still a suspect. Now, Trevor's not a suspect. I'm not a suspect. Angie Gibson coming in is not a suspect, but possibly the people that were on the hill the day that Summer went missing, well, I shouldn't say possibly, they are suspicious. They're suspects. I don't see Child Protective Services handing minor children back over to the people that are suspected of possibly being involved in the disappearance of another child. Trevor, are you muted?
There, I think I got it now. Yeah, I agree. I mean, nothing would surprise me honestly with CPS, but at the same time, it's likely that they hold off, especially if the case hasn't moved at all. Anybody been ruled out?
No one's been ruled out. That's the last we heard was everyone's still a suspect. They always say that if there's something that if there's something that needs to be known, they'll have a press conference. Well, that would definitely be something that people would need to know, I would hope.
Yeah.
I would think. RC said, I still stand by my original theory that she was sold to a predator and things went wrong. They all know about it and should be held accountable. Now, I don't know. Sold. I don't think she wandered off. Matter of fact, I was talking about the case of little Athena Brownfield, Southwest Oklahoma. On our local news this morning, they were quoting, they didn't have the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation on, but they quoted them saying, since they've done their grid search, they've done targeted searches, they are ruling out the possibility that Athena just wandered off, and they're taking another approach, and they've charged somebody with first-degree homicide without a body. Even though it's a circumstantial case, they went ahead and did that. Now we have this case. We know we don't have Summer, and we know they're done searching. So where do we sit? Court K, thank you again for the super sticker. Did you hit the lottery, Court K? Did you win at the casino last night? Court K said, why in the world would anyone want them to get their kids back? Well, Court K, we don't get a vote on it. Now, if they really are in the middle of this reunification again, and it restarted in November, so they have the 6 months to do this restarts again. Isn't that how it goes, Trevor?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll restart.
I can't speak for the powers that be in Tennessee. Most of the time, if you're under suspicion for something that went wrong, and in this case, terribly wrong with another child in your home, they won't even consider it. So Hawkins County is either going to have to clear them as a suspect, or they're just going to have to wait it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything more about that, Trevor? I know a lot of people are really concerned about the boys.
No, I haven't. I know it's kept even. I mean, minor cases are kept quiet, and there was a gag order on it, so it's super. It's just hard to hear anything about it.
And Dawn is wanting some money to fight this. I really hope that an attorney does talk to him just as a courtesy. Don't take any money from him, just as a courtesy, and just explain that, look, dude, if you raise all this money, an attorney will take it, but they're not going to be able to help you because you're a suspect. And if you're a suspect in the disappearance of your daughter, they're not going to give you your boys back. That's just how it works. We're not accusing. That's just how it works.
They said it themselves. Everyone is a suspect.
Yeah. Jam 420 says law enforcement have been unable to clear the wells. They have. So until they can clear not just Dawn, not just Candace, not just Grandis, the whole damn lot of them, they can't let those boys back. Court K, no lottery winning here, just in a mood to be heard. Why do they need money for the lawyer or to fix up their house? Well, could they get a free attorney through family court? They could, couldn't they?
Yeah.
He's not working, from what I'm understanding. So wouldn't they be assigned an attorney? They had one before. What happened with that? Do you know, Trevor?
I don't.
Where Summer said they had a free family attorney at first. Why not anymore should be the question. That's a very good question. Ronnie Lawson said they have attorneys. They have attorneys. Pruitt said the CPS case has bled over into this. I absolutely hate that he phrased it that way, but you can't unring a bell. It's out there. So they had an attorney. Why can't they use that attorney? Or did that attorney tell them, listen, until all of this is cleared up with Summer, we can't proceed with the boys? And they don't want to take that answer. And so they think if they pay an attorney, they can get somewhere.
That's probably the case.
Tamara said, remember the mattress outside the door. Are we going to be quick to give the kids back to sleep on that? I hope that mattress has been hauled off by now. Jam 420, you're right. They did have a lawyer. They did. We saw on WJHL, they were in court about a month after the boys were taken. Lawson said last March of 2022, that they have attorneys. Pruitt explained the CPS, he couldn't go too much into it, and good. I do give it to him on that. And the only thing that I can make sense of with that is that the attorney that's representing them in all of this maybe has probably explained to them, until this is settled with Summer, there's nothing more you can do. As long as you are a suspect in the case of the disappearance of Summer Wells, they're not going to entertain giving the boys back. They're just not. Here's another really good question. Maybe Trevor can help with this. Why doesn't the church help? Where did the church go?
That's a good question. There were multiple church people that were all there when the news was there in the first week.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't hear a thing about them anymore.
No. I think he needs to take the attorney's advice, which would be cooperate with law enforcement to get yourself cleared. They've had 19 months of investigating and still have not cleared them as suspects. Still can't tell us if she wandered off or if there's foul play. In August, Court K tweeted Leslie asking if this is a criminal investigation. They always say the ongoing investigation, the disappearance of Summer Wells. They never specify and say criminal investigation. So she asked her, is it a criminal investigation? Or what are we doing here? Leslie tweeted back, absolutely, there is a criminal investigation. Foul play has not been ruled out. As a result, and we can all say this in our sleep, as a result, the investigation into the circumstances leading to Summer's disappearance remains active and ongoing. They haven't ruled out foul play. Who was home with Summer? We don't have to take a guess. We know because they've told us themselves. Grandis and Candace. So we know for sure those two are suspects. We know for sure. And this is one thing that has always been a little odd to me. Most of the time when, I shouldn't say most of the time, all the time, when children are removed from a home, they look to family members to put them up, to take care of them. So they're not with complete strangers. Seems that either nobody stepped up or nobody was fit.
Yeah, that's definitely odd. And you don't hear any other family members even speak, like, besides what's the issues going on in Utah. You don't hear family members speaking up about the case besides the three that live there.
No. And right now you just have Dawn advocating. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeannie and Mary never really advocated for Summer anyway. You know, they had a lot of stuff to say about Dawn, but there wasn't really a big passion there for Summer. And my opinion on that is, you gave the TBI your information. You should have just left it with the TBI. You didn't need to go to YouTube and tell them all of this stuff. We really didn't need to know all that. All you did was you took the focus off of Summer. And I feel bad for the people that kept saying, as soon as Dawn walks out of jail in Tennessee, Utah's going to be waiting. They're not. They're probably never going to touch that. Not with a 10-foot pole.
Nope.
Not with a 10-foot pole. So 19 months ago today, in a few hours, because what is it, 1 o'clock there, Trevor? Little after 1?
Yeah.
According to Leslie at the TBI, Summer went missing early afternoon, June 15th, 2021. It's really sad when we have to specify the year. It's been 19 months. Early afternoon, and a 911 call was made. First, Dawn was called, supposedly, and then 911 was called. And the 911 call went something like this.
335, I'll be around as well. Go ahead. 35. Okay, guys. Probably going to get the same guy several days. 10-4. 29 minutes. Go ahead. Notify. Red Shield. Fire, please. For search. 335. You say when you got the original call that Mom went on a run and when she came back that daughter was gone?
Yes, where that's what the father is on. He's at work about an hour away, trying to make his way home.
All right, so the 911 call, as we know, is only the dispatcher's part. Mom advised she went on a run, and when she came back, her daughter was gone. The dispatcher says, yes, that's what the father advised. He's at work an hour away. What kind of exercise was Candace doing that day? What kind of run are we talking about? A run to the store? A run to Grandis's camper? What's the run, Trevor? Because the story changed.
It's changed a few times, and your guess is as good as mine.
According to you, there's not a lot of aerobics going on out on Ben Hill Road. You said that there's not a lot of people getting fit out there.
I have never seen someone out there on Beach Creek, Ben Hill, any of those roads when I've been down there out on the street, running, walking, jogging, crawling, rolling, any of it.
Any bicyclists, anything like that going on?
None of it.
Candace on a pogo stick, learning how to ride a unicycle, anything like that?
Yeah, I did see that once. She was pogoing across the street, but
Okay. All right. All right. So we can mark that off because it changed not too long after that. They were on WJHL, and that's when Candace blessed us all with the planting flowers story. Now, soon after we got to hear that ridiculous story, we got to hear the 911 call. I did a show and said, "Now hold the phone. We just heard Candace Wells tell everybody about how she was planting cactus on a June afternoon in Tennessee." This says they reported she went on a run and came back 10 minutes later and Summer was gone. Very odd. Jody says it eats me up. According to Detective Pruitt, one of my least favorite people, they've went through reams and reams and reams of data, yet nothing is happening. My first thoughts is the data would produce something. I think it would. I think it would. If he would call in some resources from the FBI card unit or the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, I have a feeling they would put those reams and reams and reams together better than him. You see, there's the puzzles that you buy that are for big people, they're for adults, and there's the puzzles that have like 6 pieces together that we get for our 4-year-olds. Pruitt can put the 4-year-old puzzle together because he's not experienced. They need bigger, more experienced people. Trevor,
exactly.
did you ever hear anything about a flood at the jail that Don backed up all the toilets when he was in jail?
No.
Okay, so that was just a rumor.
Yeah.
A lady named Lisa was saying that when he was in jail, he got in big trouble. I don't know if he had a lot of extra fiber that day or what, but he had backed up all the plumbing and it flooded the jail and he was going to be in big trouble for that. But you've never
Yeah.
heard.
No, I mean, I heard it from our friend Lisa, but never. It was never a thing.
Fun to Ski said he broke the sprinkler system. Do we know anything about that?
I didn't hear that anything like that actually happened.
Okay, neither did Jessica. And you guys lived there, so you heard nothing locally about the jail getting flooded.
Yeah.
What the hell? Okay. Well, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, if Allie couldn't stop up the plumbing, I'm sure Don's okay.
Careful. C12 Central. C12 will be in their house. Quite unfit. Notify 302. I had him on the phone with Bossy 0. Answer any questions he may have on it.
10-4. You want us to try to contact the canine?
Let 302 know, and I think he's going to let rescue make that determination. Quite unfit.
302 has been notified. He also wanted me to just remind you to be sure check the house camper, even if they said they've already had.
Okay, so this is a really important part of the 911 call. They're already getting their heads together about canines. If she wandered off, the dogs would have sniffed her. As what we have always heard is that The dogs lost the scent at the end of the dog trail. Now, that's been explained a million times. But if she is, I'm not being grim here, trigger warning, if she is alive and on foot trying to find her way back home, the dogs would have found her. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
Dogs have found multiple people, whether they've got lost hiking or a situation like this where a child wandered off. But nothing. And that's when she would have been fresh and on foot.
Mm-hmm.
Fresh and on foot.
Hawkins County Rescue Squad, all members, mutual aid request, search and rescue with Churchill Rescue Squad. Staging area is going to be at Mount Carmel Baptist Church on Beach Creek. Hawkins County Rescue Squad, all members, mutual aid request from Churchill Rescue on search and rescue. Staging area is going to be at Mount Carmel Baptist Church on Beach Creek. Also requesting a respond with six-wheeler and command trailer. First page, 1911. 502. 502. We acknowledge the page and the resource request. We've got several here at the station. We'll be en route in just a sec. Copy, acknowledge the page and resource request. 707, 715. Go ahead. The 1043 is Park Grant Building service to 1044.
All right, I forgot to say it before. So they say they call in 302, which from what my understanding, 302 is Pruitt. That's their investigator. Could be wrong. That's what I was told before. They said, check the house, even if they say they have. Good call. Got a lot of stuff to do. Now, this is all over the CB. This is en route to Ben Hill Road. They're already putting all of this together to find Summer Wells. So where I complain about corruption with Lawson, because I think he just does not want, well, more influential, more powerful people looking at what he's got going on in Hawkins County. That's just what it seems to me.
Mm-hmm.
But they were putting together exhaustive efforts to find her, but it fell flat. Real deal. You would think experienced FBI agents would interrogate Don and trip him up to tell the truth. I'm lost. If the DA or even Lawson, I'm sure the sheriff can do it, would contact the FBI card unit and say, look, we know there's no abduction, but you guys help whether there's an abduction or not, and we need your resources. Like in Fruitland, Idaho, Michael Vaughn has been abducted. Whether he had been abducted or not, they would help out. Not only did they say, we need your help, this little boy has been abducted, they assigned an agent, gave him an office, and he's been there ever since. We don't have that in Hawkins County. Why? Why?
Go rescue board. All other units are caught up on this issue, correct? Yes, well, I'll be using your direction to find the bug. Yes, well, I'm leaving the SO here.
For the complainant or the suspect? Okay.
Go to. seen on the scene?
He's en route.
Detective Grant, is he on the scene?
We've not been advised.
10-4.
Dan Trevor to 302.
Go ahead.
Britain's on scene.
10-4. 29 seconds.
29.
Get on with 334. About then we need 2 units to come in and call the police. 29 seconds.
Make contact with 34. He's gonna get to you.
10-4, just advise us. Don't send them over here just for them to have a full call, please.
That's where I thought him.
3 seconds. Myself 41 has it cleared by the time that 2 units go connect. Just one of them welfare check on country line. We go connect. 2949. 2949. Which direction did you go?
I'm in the Mount Carmel Free Will Baptist Church.
49. You won't be able to reach him.
He called 302.
Said he got me 302.
Okay, we're getting a lot of static now. So in all of that, we're talking about drones, helicopters, dogs. People ask a lot, did they search the whole property, the whole 11 acres? The whole 11 acres plus these grown men and women were walking shoulder to shoulder, taking small steps. I keep bringing up other things, and I know I shouldn't, but it just reminded me the other day, a lot of volunteers came out to try to help and find Athena Brownfield. And there was an officer there with the Oklahoma State Troopers, and he said, don't go out on your own trying to find her. Do what I do. Meaning, if you're just wandering around, you're going to miss something. There's a specific way you have to search. Danny said, fell flat for a little girl that disappeared in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Let's think about that. That's one of the stories we heard. The cactus story. Candace took her by the hand because she wanted to see her brothers. She went inside, which means the last people to see Summer Wells would be her brothers. She said that she went down into the basement to play, and 2 minutes later, she was gone. Two minutes later, she was gone. Danny, you're exactly right. All of that searching for a little girl that disappeared in 2 minutes or 10 minutes. I think it was a lot longer. Early afternoon, however you want to, whoever wants to argue early afternoon, have at it. But early afternoon is earlier than 6:20 p.m.
Hours earlier.
Tamara said the dispatch just said that Dad called as well. So they got 2 calls. 2 calls. Of course, the information on each call is going to be different because Dawn wasn't home. Now, early on, Candace said Dawn was at work and their oldest son was with him. We find out later that the oldest son was at home. Then she told another channel, I can't remember who it was, it doesn't matter. She said she doesn't know where Dawn was all day. I wonder if Dawn even knows that Candace, a little bit after he went to jail last year, if he knows that she said, we don't have a marriage like that. I just keep up with my kids, she said. I don't know what he was doing that day. that day. Who would know? Who would know? We've gone through this once before, I believe, and this is a former prosecutor who was on News Nation talking about the case of Summer Wells. It was interesting then. It's interesting now. Now, he truly is a former prosecutor. The hot topic word, well, there's a few. There's deep dive. We're doing a deep dive into a case. That's one. Speculation, that always needs to be noted. I'm just speculating, or it's just my opinion. We don't want to confuse anybody. Another one that I absolutely adore is expert. We have a lot of experts out there, Trevor. Have you noticed?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'll use this one for example. In the Idaho 4 case, we have a ton of experts weighing in. I am a weirdo, okay? I believe that the only expert in that case would be Brian Kohlberger, right?
Oh, yeah.
He would be the only person that knows everything about the case. Why he did it, what time he got there, what time he left. Everybody else that's weighing in, they don't have the case file and they weren't there. We've had a lot of experts in Summer's case as well. This guy is giving an expert opinion. It's just his opinion. He doesn't have the case file. But this is a really interesting thing, Trevor. On the internet, you can be anything. Most people are either an expert or a beauty influencer. I'm neither one. I'm going to pick a new one. I'm going to pick a new term. Okay, Trevor?
Let's do it.
Former federal prosecutor and co-host of the True Crime Reporter podcast joins me now. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So this little girl just appears to have vanished into thin air. She was reportedly gardening with her family outside. What stands out to you about the Summer Wells case?
Well, I guess to begin with, anytime there's a case of this nature, it turns out in the end that the vast majority are committed by someone they knew, whether it's a family member or someone else, someone that knew them. It's very rare that a stranger abduction or a stranger incident like this take place. It does take place. And I've had several I've worked on that it's been the case. But I see this as a bit of a, for lack of a better term, a country John Benet Ramsey case where the families made statements, perhaps some inconsistent statements, depending on what you read and who you believe. But at this point, there's not enough evidence, apparently, for law enforcement to either show those statements are true, the family's being truthful, or the family's not being truthful, or that any other person they've spoken with has been truthful or not.
I couldn't agree more. In my expert opinion, I couldn't agree more. When everybody's lying, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? Okay, so Don wasn't there. Don, he has he took the reins. He took the reins. He guided the ship for a while. He drove the train. Then he went to jail and things just went quiet. He wasn't there, so all he can do is regurgitate what Candace has been telling him. And Candace she seems to have a hard time putting the story together. About how many hours, just your expert opinion, Trevor, do you think lapsed between when sight of Summer was lost and the 911 call was made?
Definitely longer than, what was it, 10 minutes?
Yep.
Definitely longer than that. Kids don't just vanish.
They don't. No, they don't. And in society, someone has to be held accountable, or there has to be a reasonable explanation. I think that's the big problem right now, besides the fact that Summer hasn't been found. If she can't be found, she can't be found. It was said one time that they're not going to find her. They're never going to find her. There's no evidence. It was said on another creators panel, not on this one because I'm not an expert, that Candace is only going to concentrate on her 3 boys because Summer has passed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, just like that.
In John Benet Ramsey's case, he just didn't have enough evidence to link an individual to the homicide. And in this case, we don't have the little girl yet. And so it's a lack of evidence that makes it hard to contradict or corroborate statements. And so far, I think that's the main thing.
And I was reading about this case. It's really interesting. This reignited the search for her aunt, Rosemarie Bly, who also vanished from Polk County in 2009. That's a pretty big coincidence on its face.
That's odd. It may be a coincidence, but things of that nature that happen within families, sometimes there's a reason to look a little deeper. And I think in this case, if I'm reading correctly, the other children, that is to say her brothers, may have been taken from the home by Child Protective Services. I've read that. If that's true, there's something more to it that we're not hearing yet. And that's something that law enforcement will have to work through. And I'm sure they are. And I'm sure there's much we don't know at this point.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. The only clue, as we just heard from that reporter, in her disappearance so far seems to be that red pickup truck. The whole community has been searching. It seems like they would have found something by now. We heard from that law enforcement officer saying usually we get some sort of credible clue or tip at this point in the investigation.
Well, unless it didn't happen the way their whole basis for what they're doing is based on what I guess the family and maybe some others told them. So if that turns out to be mistaken in terms of its time or not correct, it may be that we had a case where a preacher in Texas murdered his wife and faked it as a suicide. And the time frame he gave, which law enforcement relied upon, they just fully relied upon it for the longest time until they realized he was lying about all of it. And his alibi was completely impossible forensically. And so the foundation of what we start with in a case like this sometimes is a myth. It may not be. It may be exactly correct. But if it's a myth, then everything that works from there could be mistaken. And we just don't know enough.
Okay, Bill Johnson, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we don't just know enough. So what he's saying here is always been really interesting to me. They rely on the timeline. They start investigating based on what they're told by the people that were with the child. And of course, that would be Candace and Grandis. And we've heard that story. Grandis, I have a huge problem with because her account of the day has been that she heard Candace yelling for Summer, and she tells Grandis Summer's been abducted. There has to be more to that story because any reasonable thinking person would say, what are you talking about? She's got to be around here somewhere. Let's go find her. They just throw their hands up and say, oh, darn, she's been abducted. So let's send the boys to the creek with pocket knives to look for her. Did you ever think the story about sending the boys out to the creek was a little odd?
Very much so, especially with the idea that there's an abductor in the area.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because that's their only theory that's been the same for 19 months. I mean, that's the one thing they've stuck with is that she was abducted. So if that's where they stand, why send your other 3 into the side of an abductor?
Into the side of the abductor, exactly. Exactly. It's always been odd to me as well that you are familiar with crime in your family because, well, you have a sister, you have a daughter that's missing, gone, yet you leave 3 boys there by themselves that day. Now, the abductor didn't take the boys with nobody else around. Nobody else around. They wait till they get home and they take Summer, who could pass for a little boy because they had cut her hair off. It makes no sense. None.
Nope. Nothing adds up at all.
Now, how are you doing on your petition? I know there's a petition going around.
We're at about a little over 3,500 signatures last I checked.
Now, what's the process on that? You wait to get so many signatures, and then where does the petition go from there?
Well, once it plateaus out, which I'd say it probably has now, where signatures aren't really climbing anymore, then I send it to, once I get a point of contact at the DOJ, which I'm still waiting on, then that would be who I would send it to show them that there are X amount of people who also feel the same way. It's not just one person saying this.
And I think it would be important for them to know that it's not just you and a couple people that are irritated. 3,500 now. Are a lot of them from Hawkins County?
It's honestly a mix. I've got to pull up the list again, the signature list, but it's a mix. Some local, some not.
There's a lot of talk about the terrain, that it was such a hard search because of the terrain and the heat, which I imagine was grueling. And there are some people saying she can't be found because it is East Tennessee. And I just don't agree with that. I understand it's not flat prairie land like some states, but they had an extensive search. Helicopters, drones, dogs, human beings. They had like 40 different agencies looking for her. I think there's a little bit more to it than that. One thing that's brought up quite a bit are the caves in East Tennessee. Some of them go down so far, let's just say, because I don't want to upset anybody, let's just say she fell into one. We go back to last spring when the head of the TBI was addressing your state Congress wanting more funding, and mentioned Summer Wells. And I think it was Lone Wolf in here saying that the type of equipment he was talking about is what they used in Afghanistan. They could actually see through the rock into caves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a little bit about the terrain.
There was no private property signs, nothing saying to keep out, so we decided we would check it out. When going into a cave like this, you always want to be really careful not to disturb too much of the rock around you. Nothing is being supported, it's not professionally done, you know? So just own your steps. Also, never break a stalactite, stalagmite. Don't take any with you, no matter how tempting it is. It's illegal. We're lucky to be able to go into these caves.
This is just dirt and rock. It's kind of sketchy for sure, so I wouldn't bump anything too hard. Try to just stay low. Wow, it's pretty cool. Okay, let me wait for my brother for a second. Let me get down a little. Shit. Sorry if I'm blinding you.
So it took a little bit of a risk coming into this cave. I knew that it was somewhat of a kick it spot, so I figured a party spot like this, if it was dangerous, there'd be some sort of signs or it would get blocked off.
Dude, this is nuts.
Taking that risk, we went inside. We realized that the air was slightly thin. We were breathing slightly heavier. No funny smells or anything, but just because of that, we didn't stay long. If you guys decide to go into caves, just be really careful. It's a lot of fun until somebody gets hurt, right? And it's easy to do.
Bro. Getting cool. Does it feel like we're getting out of air a little? Check this out. Dude, there's a slide right here. The slide that goes down to that area.
Yeah, look at those.
I'm gonna have to. You come over the cave slide. In Tennessee, you can find these natural slides. These natural slides provide awesome fun and easy transportation throughout caves. Oh shit! Bro, what's wrong? Guys, check this out. Little crystals growing off the side. Minerals and stuff. And then you look down, and boom. I'm standing on something that could probably...
Now, if you look at the screen right there, I know that dogs were everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. If a person got down into a hole like that, whether they crawled, were put, they fell, however you want to phrase it, a lot of the equipment that was used, actually, I'll go ahead and say it, the equipment that was used would not detect that person down in there. Are you looking at that, Trevor? Where'd my friend Trevor go?
Yeah, I see it. I agree.
I mean, you're familiar with all this, Trev.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's been noted that, Grandis did a lot of exploring around these areas. She collects rocks and things like that. I wonder if maybe she could have given some insight.
The only insight she gave was the only interview she gave, which was just childish anyway. Nothing to actually help.
Nope.
collapse. Hopefully not. Goes down to another section that's not too big, but can't really see where it goes behind me. I think I'll save that for another day. Let's go up top, shall we? People broke off all the stalactites here. This is part of a giant one, see it? Stalagmite connected there. They all hung down here, all cool at one point. But people suck. I don't want to be in here too long. Wow. Holy shit. This is really cool. Bro. Holy shit.
Some of these caves, not just in Tennessee, Missouri, Oklahoma, Utah, you name it, go down to the middle of the freaking earth. Have you ever seen the movie with James Franco? Trevor, it's called 127 Hours.
No.
Trevor, you've got to see that movie. Has anybody seen that movie? Okay, so he's at Blue John Canyons in Utah. So I mean, not caves so much, but anyway, a huge ass prehistoric ass rock falls on his arm, and all he had was like a Swiss pocket knife. He cut off his own arm, Trevor.
Jeez.
Uh-huh. It's a true story. His name is Aaron Ralston. Check it out, Trevor.
Look. You feel any air in here? No. Me neither. It's kind of stagnant. That's cool. Check out these stalactites up there. There's a bat right here, bro. Oh, man. That's a little bat. Well, it feels slightly difficult to breathe. Not crazy. Is that normal here? It might be if there's limited oxygen. You probably don't want to stay down here too long. Yeah, so this cave was visible from the side of the road. It's huge. You don't have to pay to come here, you just have to know where it is. But it goes up there, and then where does it go? Gosh, check this out. Wow, the structure of these rocks is cool as hell. That is nuts, Brian. You gotta check this out. So it definitely goes down further on both sides. Left and right. This is all falling pieces of the ceiling and stuff. Wow, check that out. Oh, we found beer cans up here. This is the kicking spot. I haven't even been looking for bats. Stalactites up there. They're pretty cool. I guess when you're drunk, you don't care if you can breathe. This is the best part of the cave back here. Yeah, it's wide open. Tons of cool looking stuff. This is badass.
It is badass, but impossible to find somebody in one of them. Impossible. I mean, besides caves, what else could it be? If they sold her, and a lot of people believe that she was sold, I say they, I'm Candace, Grandis, we don't know. Then there would have to be some sort of exchange that by now even Pruitt could pick up on. This is just my opinion. If she wandered off, somebody would have come across her by now. It's been 19 months. What's your theory, Trev?
I'm not sure. I go back and forth, but I know some of the things I just don't. I find it hard to believe of an abduction just with where the house is set and where card team, everybody has said no sign of abduction. It's the one thing they said there's no sign of.
The card team
And
said
like
no?
you said, with a sale, they would probably be able to pick up on, there'd be certain indicators because there have to be exchange. So really it just comes down to something in that 4-hour gap, however many hours you want to consider that. I call about 4-hour gap from that middle afternoon to when the police were called, is something happened with the people she was with. I don't know what followed, but I think something happened in that 4-hour gap.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's a long time. How long would you honestly wait to call 911 if your child is missing? Realistically, I know some people will say, it would take me 1 second to call. Realistically, how long would you have to be looking for your child before you realized you're in huge trouble and you've got to get a hold of somebody? Because I know when Jose was there, he said they spent the better part of an hour looking for Summer one time. So they didn't call 911 that time because he said she wandered off a lot. So why after 2 minutes or 10 minutes was 911 called on the 15th when the previous fall she had been missing for over an hour, up to an hour, let's say, and they didn't call that day? I've always found that to be very odd.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. And that 1 to 2 minutes is just way too early. I mean, especially with that much land and property, you're going to search some before you just automatically call the police. Because at that point, you don't want the police, if it is something small, you don't want the police involved because then CPS and it's just a whole, you bring in things you don't want to bring in. So, just not something you would do after 2 minutes.
No, no. But she did on the 15th. She called Don and he said, call 911. I wonder if anything was mentioned to Don back in the fall when Jose was there and they looked for the better part of an hour to try to find Summer. Odd, very odd to me.
Mm-hmm.
Check this thing out. Badass. I found a blunt wrap. This is where it ends. Got a smart water. We got petroglyphs back here. Carly something. Taking off the backpack. So I can wiggle my way up here. Cool. I don't want to go any further, guys. It's pretty tight. I don't know how much oxygen is in here, but this has been awesome. And this is it. I'm sure I'll be back here later and let you know if I find anything else. Peace out.
As we said, she could be anywhere. And if you're underground, if someone, I know people have said she's been buried somewhere, but a drone would have picked up on freshly overturned earth. I'm not putting down anyone's theory. I'm just going through them with everybody because, well, it's been 19 months. 19 months. I really think Don should work around the sheriff altogether and make a call every day to Pruitt. Every single day. You know, Pruitt says he comes in and he checks his voicemail and he follows up on tips and then he gets onto his whatever else comes his way. I'd make sure I was the first thing on his voicemail every morning and I'd keep calling until he answered that phone call. I wouldn't even deal with Lawson. He's not an investigator anyway. He's the sheriff. Not downplaying the sheriff in any county. He's not an investigator. And when I don't get anywhere with Pruitt, which you're not, it's going to take a long time to get anywhere with Pruitt, then you call the DA. And you call and you call and you call and you request meetings. Where are we? What are we doing with my daughter's disappearance? What are we doing? Because YouTube can't do it. YouTube can keep the name of Summer Wells out in the forefront so she's not totally forgotten. We don't want people in comments going, oh my God, I thought that would have been solved by now. We want people aware that there is a 5-year-old little girl that just vanished and no one has been held accountable.
Exactly.
Before we wrap it up, let's look at what the DA in Hawkins County did have to say. Now, since these interviews, because a lot went on all at once, we had Lawson saying that they aren't cooperating. He said, no, they're not cooperating. That was music to our ears. We needed to know that. That needed to be known. The DA spoke out. Pruitt spoke out. Since the 1-year anniversary of her disappearance, nothing. Matter of fact, Leslie was getting real testy with people that were tweeting her about Summer. She was getting real testy. She was firing back at people saying, just read the FAQs. Well, the frequently asked questions, we already know the answers. And any question that's not on there, you're just going to say is part of the investigation. So what the hell is going on? What on the frequently asked questions do you want answered the most? That's not on the frequently answered questions.
That's a good one. I would want to know the method of investigation. I know they say they don't have one, but I think they've got to have some idea of what they're looking at.
Well, when you tweeted her last month, here, I've got to pull it up over here. I can't see it right there, but it's on the screen. Trevor has his own file on my computer. Has the investigation moved at all towards a resolution? She replied to you, this is Leslie at TBI, it's on the screen. She says, it has not. I can tell you that agents continue to follow any and all potential leads. Well, I would just love to know what the leads are. What are the leads?
Yeah.
I know they're not going to tell us. They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't. Then you said, without disclosing any specific details, has the TBI been able to determine a last confirmed site of life of Summer? She said yes. Now, they have never, one thing that's never been changed, which really nothing's ever been changed, we don't know anything. But one thing that has never had to be updated is June 15th. So when people ask, maybe she went missing before, they have never said she could have been seen last on the 13th, the 14th. They have always said the 15th was the last time she was seen. So they have a positive proof of life other than Hunter that she was alive on the 15th.
My guess would be at one of the stores they went to, but
you also asked, without disclosing which avenue of investigation, has the TBI determined a specific scope of investigation? Abduction, foul play, wandered off? She said no. We've not been able to rule out any of those possibilities. Until we can do so, we will continue to look into all possibilities. Now, what's odd to me about the abduction part of that is that the FBI card unit said there is no sign of an abduction. None. There was a lady assigned to the case, I can't remember her name now, and she only deals with Amber Alerts. Now, there is still an Amber Alert. There's still an Amber Alert. But once the FBI card unit said no abduction, she was off the case. We haven't heard from her since. I think her last time we heard from her was in July of 2021. So they rule out the abduction really fast. They did in this case. So let's look at what the DA had to say.
Search for missing Summer Wells continues tonight. That's the Hawkins County girl who's now been missing for nearly 10 months.
Tonight, for the first time, we're hearing from District Attorney General Dan Armstrong about his role in the investigation into what happened to the missing 6-year-old Summer Wells.
On the night of June 15th, District Attorney General Armstrong called in the TBI to help with the search efforts for Summer Wells. Now, almost 10 months later and no real developments, this case is unlike anything he's ever worked before.
The sheriff will contact other law enforcement agencies, and but under the way the TBI is set up, I have to make the formal request for the TBI. So the sheriff, when in this particular case, he had called and asked for help from all the agencies and then called me and I asked the TBI to get involved.
The long-spanning search for Summer Wells.
Okay, I find myself having to take up for Lawson a little bit here. Now, while Lawson doesn't want his dirty laundry aired, he reached out to the DA June 15th of 2021 saying, I need all the resources. What has happened since then? Because they got them all. I mean, he's clearly telling us, I made the call to the TBI. I asked them to come assist. He needed all the help he could get. We have a missing little girl. What happened? We can only speculate. What happened from June 15th or when the search was called off, a couple of weeks in to when she went missing? What happened? I don't expect them to be walking around every day aimlessly looking for Summer, but are they involved or not? According to Leslie, they are an assisting agency. So when they need assistance, they're there. Odd. Listen to that again.
So the sheriff, when in this particular case, he had called and asked for help from all the agencies and then called me and I asked the TBI to get involved.
The long-spanning search for Summer Wells can feel like a blur, but the night of June 15th is clear as day, just as the call to issue an Amber Alert on the 16th.
An Amber Alert is where a child is missing from either the person that's supposed to have legal custody of them or their parents. And so we put out the Amber Alert to alert everybody, including citizens. If you have a cell phone, your phone will go off on Amber Alerts. So you can be on the lookout and help us spot this child if the child happens to show up in your area.
No one has been charged in relation to Summer's disappearance, but that doesn't mean the district attorney isn't involved.
My role basically is just to be an advisor as to any legal issues that may come up during the search, who to talk to, how to go about doing that. I am kept briefed periodically, not every day, but periodically, and just available to provide any legal assistance that I can.
As law enforcement is flooded with tips and the seasons change, small-scale searches have taken place in the Beach Creek area.
We follow leads as they come in. So at this point, you're basically down to just following whatever leads come in and following up, maybe trying to backtrack and do some things you did before to see if anything comes of it.
The most recent ground search back in February didn't bring anything, and right now there isn't another one planned. Coming up tonight at 6, you'll hear more from District Attorney General Armstrong about his role in the investigation and how it impacts the possibility of future charges.
And we'll get to that on the next show. What he said in part 2 was a case like this would involve a grand jury. Now, there have been a few grand juries convened since his interview, and it's safe to say none of them have anything to do with Summer Wells because, well, there hasn't been any arrests.
Insane.
None. Real Deal said, were there any child predators living in the area at the time? They interviewed all the RSOs. So when you have a sex offender in your area, they have to have a damn good alibi when a child comes up missing. So do with that information, do what you want. And unfortunately, every community's got them. You may think you don't, but you do. They're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting. It is disgusting.
Insane.
Unfortunately, there's no shortage of pieces of shit.
No.
And we got to stick together because there's more of them than there are of us, it seems. Every day, you can knock me over with a feather, the nastiness that goes on. Prayer Garden said there was no fresh fingerprints of Summers on said door she supposedly went out to my understanding, and no one prints outside the families as well. You mean the basement door? Prayer Garden, are you talking about the basement door? Because Candace said when she went down to the basement, she looked under the mattress that was laying on the concrete floor because it would be so easy to squeeze between a mattress and the concrete. She looked under the blankets. Then she walked out that door, which she said no one in, no one out. But I guess it was unlocked that day because Dawn said they had been telling the boys over and over to keep that door locked. And the boys just weren't keeping the family safe like they're supposed to. Tongue in cheek, I'm saying that. She said she walked out that door. She looked to the right because she said Summer would sit there by herself and play. But now Prayer Garden is saying there wasn't any fresh fingerprints, and there would be if Summer was going out that door. Somebody would have
open a door without your fingers.
Right. She didn't use her feet. She didn't headbutt it.
Yeah.
Disgusting. Whole thing is disgusting. 19 months. 19 months. Oh, what a reminder. Thank you, Muscles. And looked in the dungeon for 20 minutes. Really? 20 minutes. We can't hold her to 20 minutes. We can't hold her to 2 minutes. We can't hold her to 10 minutes because she says she doesn't keep track of time when she's having fun. Time is of no consequence. Time is of no consequence, even when your child is missing. That's what we've got.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's what we've got to rely on in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't even know what to say about that. I guess there's nothing to say, you know? The whole thing is crazy.
Well, it's a big reason why we're here 19 months later.
Superhero Loves Akita says, I don't know what they want the 10K for, but they don't want the boys back. That's for sure. Well, if they raise this 10,000 and they show up to say that they have a hearing coming up for the boys, but they don't have an attorney and it's known that they've raised money, it's going to be yet another black eye. And I don't know enough about Child Protective Services in Tennessee to know, do they reunify children with parents that are under suspicion for the disappearance of another child? I have a feeling that they're just like every other state. That's a no-go. You have to be cleared of the other wrongdoing. It has to be 100% explainable before you get to have other children. I know some people say it's very possible, and of course they can and stuff like that. And I've said before, of course they can, if they're cleared of this. If they're cleared of this. At last I've heard, since we went live at 11:45 Central my time, they were still suspects. Did you get an alert or anything, Trevor? Are they still suspects?
They definitely are.
Okay, well, Trevor said it.
Definitely
right?
are.
So it's 1:15 Central time. They're still suspects. All right, I'm going to close the show, my friends. Let's light it up for Summer. Purple Heart, Summer's Army. Keep the faith, keep the hope alive, keep her name out there. She's not going to be just a comment. That really hurt me. And it's nothing against this lady. She just didn't know. For someone to say, oh, well, I thought by now they would have found her. I haven't looked at it. No, they have not found her. There's no arrest. There is 100% no accountability. Nothing. 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 How does that happen? I mean, I don't understand it.
Good question.
I mean, whether she
I
wanted,
don't either. At all.
I mean, whether she, the wandering off thing, I give up on. Forget it. Somebody has to be held accountable or give an explanation that law enforcement can deal with. So I'm going to close the show. Trevor, you keep up the fight. You're our general in this war, my friend.
Always.
All right, Trevor, I'm going to get you that movie too, 127 hours.
All right, I look forward to watching it.
All right.